There we go. So this is our last event of the year, Unlocking Innovation in Intelligent Railways, looking at all things data and digital. Before I kind of launch into what we have planned for you for the next 12 months, just to say a few things about today. So this part of the event is the keynotes part, and it will be here for a couple of hours, so apologies for that. The reason for that is that it is being live streamed as well and recorded. So if you want to revisit any of the speeches and presentations, you can. And it means that the online audience as well can just kind of get all of the presentations in one go. So we'll have an excellent lineup of speakers. It's going to be quite short and snappy presentations. I will not do any Q&A. And it's the reason for that is I expect my speakers to stay here for the rest of the day, and then that means you can actually have a conversation with them. For those of you online, I'm sorry, you cannot chat with the speakers, but you can chat among yourselves. I have left the chat enabled, so you can actually have a conversation happening and comment on the presentations and just have this networking between yourselves as well. So I do encourage you to do that. We have one speaker joining us online, Amanda Hall. So, but we have some of Amanda's colleagues here as well today for you to ask questions. We will then have a quick networking lunch and exhibition spotlight. So this is the second time we're doing exhibition spotlights. The first time we did it in summer and in Dagenham, it worked really well. So what that means that instead of having people come here on stage and pitch at you, you have the opportunity to come to their stand and have that sort of a more dynamic conversation with them. After that, we will have lab tours. So you all have a little sticker on your, by the way, the lunch spotlights and tours will not be broadcast, that's in person only activity today. So you have a little sticker that indicates a group. We're trying to split you into groups of 20 or so, and the lab tours will start at 2:15 and will be every 15 minutes. So why intelligent railways? Well, we've been hearing a lot of the comments that railway needs to be more efficient, more productive, cheaper, and always all of these kind of suggestions comes with and we do that through digitalization. So we have a lot of companies in our membership, and there's a lot of activities happening around that topic. And we, as a membership body representing your businesses, we realize that we don't really have a coherent sort of ask, ask to understand what do we need to ask the government, the clients to do in order for that digitalization, that intelligent use of data to be efficient and to deliver those goals that the government has. So what we're doing today, we are launching a data and digital capabilities for the railway questionnaire. It's a working title. If you have anything better, sort of sexier sounding title, come to me with suggestions. And that is something that we're basically, we looked at what we think are the 8 themes that will enable and unlock that better access to data and better use of data, better intelligent use of data. But we want to test our thinking with you. So we're asking you to have a look at this questionnaire. It will run for a couple of months. Just to submit your comments, have a look, you know, are we right? Is there something that we're missing? There's also an opportunity to submit a case study. So we really want to have those case studies from you to base our story with evidence. So Sam, my colleague Sam, who is not in the room, no, but you met, there he is, he heard his name. So here's Sam, and we have a couple of totem poles, sort of a touch screen, touch screens today. So Sam will guide you through the process if you want to have a chat with him. And the online audience, please have a look at it. Please start filling this questionnaire. It'll be very good for us. Right. So I said this is the last Unlocking Innovation event this year, but we're not in the business of standing still. So we're doing a next event now in February. And Penny, just to let you know that if there's no more space there, there's the overflow room for people to join. Okay. Thank you. So the next event will take place in February. And thank you very much for Unipart hosting us. Where are my Unipart colleagues at? There we go. There's a little wave. Please stand up. Thank you very much. Thank you. So we'll have it, but don't necessarily, we'll look at freight, and that's heavy and light freight. So we're thinking about doing a half-a-day event with some keynotes, some elevator pitches, and some exciting site visits. I cannot confirm where those site visits are yet because they have not been confirmed, but I will let you know as soon as I know. So, but you can start registering today. And then, of course, the big one is the RIA Innovation Conference taking place on 28th and 29th of March next year. Two-day event looking at big picture, and this event will really look at delivering the benefits of innovation. So the keynotes will look at funding available, people who have money to spend on innovation. We will have tech talks of innovations that have been delivered in CP6 and are delivering benefits already. The exhibition will look at innovations ready to be rolled out into the network, and we're actually introducing the exhibition spotlight session at our innovation conference. So we've tried and tested it here at Unlocking Innovation events. It was successful. Hopefully they will be successful as well. So please do register, don't miss this event. Right. Also, we have Ellie. Where are you, Ellie? There she is at the back. So you might have seen that we recently launched a partnership with Rail Business Daily Community. We have a joint membership, and you can get some savings and support from both of the organizations, so you can get the benefits from both. And Ellie is here today, and she has a pop-up banner at the exhibition stand. So if you want to have a discussion about benefits, please go and have a chat with her. Right, okay, that's my introduction done, and I would like to pass over to Paul and talk about our host today, which we are very grateful for having us. And over to you.
Thank you very much, Milda. If it looks like I'm walking around hobbling, it's just the heel fell off my shoe on the way to campus. So I'm not injured, but I think more serious. So first of all, just welcome. My name is Plummer, as you heard. I've been at the university now for a year and a half. We've spent 23 years or so in the industry at the rail regulator, on the board of Network Rail and running rail delivery group. So I've come from the industry, and it's a real privilege to be now here at the Birmingham Centre for Railway Research and Education and be part of UK Rail Research Network. So that collaboration across universities and with industries is something I think is really exciting. So just a very brief spiel, if you like, about the University of Birmingham. You can see some stats on there about how the achievements of the university, one of the top universities in the country and the world. A fantastic place to be, and privileged I am to be here. As part of that, the Birmingham Centre for Railway Research and Education is actually one of the largest research centres, academic research centres in Europe, certainly. One of the unique things it does, that I don't think happens really anywhere else in Europe, is certainly the largest place where there is apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships, undergraduate, postgraduate taught and postgraduate research in railways, specifically in railways. So that's something quite unique and a pleasure to be involved with. The other part of the story, of course, is UKRRIN, and you're here in the Centre for Excellence of Digital Systems. And again, as I said, that's a fantastic real example of collaboration across universities and with the supply chain supported by government and so on. So, and it's a fantastic building as well, apart from the housing. And it's really all about partnerships across the world as well. We do a huge amount of stuff globally. The campus in Dubai is the latest example, but across the world, we work in railways everywhere. And lots of pictures there of lots of launches and the significance of collaboration agreements across the world that I think enable us to leverage the benefit of the research we do here within the industry, also to get input from across the world into what we're trying to do. Lots of words on this slide, and I'll talk around it because these are the key themes of the research at the centre and linking to UKRRIN. The first one is really related to digital, different aspects of digital, of which this is the Centre for Excellence for UKRRIN to see. So issues around railway operations and control systems and how those can be improved and optimised to run the system more effectively. One of the areas where I do quite a lot of work supporting the team doing a lot of simulation, operational simulation of the railway. And one of the things that's exciting there is to be able to do that through the whole life cycle of an asset or an investment. So you're doing it at very early stages of the cycle, but you're using the same systems and tools to simulate operations right the way through the life of an asset, and to understand that and then enable better decisions early up front, but also through that life cycle. So that's interesting. I think one of the things going on from that is started, instead of simulating the movement of trains, as a railway tends to do, we actually simulate the movement of people on those trains using technology. So that's an area of fruitful development. Linked again into the digital area around the cyber security issues and risks associated with that is one of the key capabilities here, and smart monitoring of infrastructure. So we can then join these things together. So we can have monitoring infrastructure tied into the control systems and the simulation of those things, and look at the whole system, which is one of the very strong issues here about the systems engineering capability, looking at the bigger picture. Well, I'm not an engineer, I'm an economist. I think we think very similarly in terms of the bigger picture and system and how things interrelate with each other, which of course everything relates to everything. And then the next theme, moving on from digital, is around decarbonisation. If we don't have enough of a challenge to find it there, then we should be devoting effort to it. Good example is here where with the hydrogen train, where it started with a research project from students, led to various stages of testing and developing that, and then finally a real train appearing in the railway. So it's a great example of early research quite quickly realising itself on the railway. And of course, as well as all of that, we do a lot of work in education and skills and in innovation. We're going to talk about here the innovation issues. And the overlay I would put on all of this personally, given my history, is a focus on customers and a focus on the context of what we're doing in research, in engineering, in whatever it is we're doing, to make sure that it is absolutely focused on delivering better services to customers. It's one of the challenges to the railway, but it's also a challenge for academic institutions to constantly have that in our mindset, to make sure that drives the innovation that we're doing, drives the detailed thinking across the piece. And so that, I think, leads into the rest of the day very nicely. And I'm going to hand over to Rob, who's stolen the rest of this slot, to talk to you about something quite specific. I won't be around for all of the day, but I hope I'll see some of you later.
Thank you very much, Paul, and I hope you get over your cancer deficiency sufficiently well.
Did you walk away with the clipper?
No, I will wear it. I will only take 2 more minutes of your time. One of the joys of working here, especially in my role, is I look after international collaboration, so do others. But I also look after SME engagement, and no one else wants to do that job, so I get all of that joy. And we combine them now and again by opportunities for innovators, high-tech companies, and new products to rail. And in last week of January, I know you can't read this, but I will be in the exhibition hall, probably next to Unit Art, because I think there's a free table there. And this is a trade visit of sorts to the German region of Saxony. And we've had a long 10-year relationship with this business cluster and 14 others on the European mainland. And so the beauty there is we've got a soft landing in Europe for rail trade, but we've garnered this relationship over 10 years, 12 years nearly now. So last week of January, if you're interested, then come and see me, and I can run you through the timetable. There's the meeting the likes of Alstom and other OEM contacts, but also Deutsche Bahn, and also Railmaint, which is Germany's largest rolling stock maintainer. So and also networking receptions and all that. All you have to pay for is your flights there and your bed and breakfast. All the other stuff is covered by the Saxony region, one of 16 regions of Germany. So that's my ask. And I would like also just to introduce two colleagues at the back of the room, Roger, there we go, and Alec. So the reason that I'm introducing them is that they are from NCATI, and the University of Birmingham owns NCATI. And so if you're looking for anything on the skills and apprenticeship thing side of life, go see them, and there's a stand for them as well. And a lot of people don't know you're paying for apprenticeships that you're not benefiting from. So if your salary bill is more than £3 million a year, you're already paying the apprenticeship levy, and therefore why not get some of that money back? Thank you very much, Milda. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you at lunchtime.
Thank you very much. I'd like to chat with Ian Richard Jones. You probably know him. He is here abandoned us from Bria and is continuing doing good work somewhere else. So we're good to see you, Richard. Right. Okay. Now I'd like to invite Clare and Jess to talk about the very exciting project with Rail Data Marketplace. Over to you. Here's the clicker. Here's the microphone.
Thanks, Milda. My name's Jess Smith. I'm joined today by Clare. I can work the machine. I work for Rail Delivery Group, and we've just got a bit of a talk about the Rail Data Marketplace. But I thought I'd start off on something a bit more to get us thinking, if you like. You'll have all seen this quote, "Data is the new oil." It actually comes from an Economist article that came out about 2017, and it was referencing Standard Oil in America. And in the early 20th century, there was an antitrust, anti-competition legislation that Supreme Court ruled on and actually broke up Standard Oil. And the article was making an analogy between that and Facebook and Google and Amazon and others that were holding enormous amounts of data, and therefore you had this kind of, self-reinforcing disadvantage, if you like, to other players in that space. Now, more recently, it's taken on a different sort of connotation, a different interpretation around the value of data. And, others have described data as the raw materials of the future. There's no doubt there's an aspiration that data can help us in maybe a digital revolution now, as oil and hydrocarbons did at the start of the Industrial Revolution. Data is really the foundation of lots of the innovation we see today, from digital transformation, digital twins, artificial intelligence, machine learning. All of these things require data to function well, to function efficiently, and to drive us forward. But data is a bit like oil in another way. So you have to find it. You potentially have to negotiate ownership. There might be a surface ownership and a lower level of ownership. You have to extract it. You have to probably do some kind of refining or processing, and then you distribute it. So I think there's those two interpretations, but both give us some insight into how we might unlock that innovation and how data can potentially help us do that. But in the rail industry, what on earth happened there? All right, let me go back, get preview soon. But in the rail industry, we have got some challenges. So, if you ask, where can I find data about the rail industry, I think there's just a number of challenges you bump up instantly against that are kind of our model, our ecosystem that delivers the rail experience actually fragments that data. There isn't a really clear view about where it's held, who has it. There's a really complex language. I'm relatively new to the industry. Boy, do we love the acronyms, don't we? I grapple with those on an almost daily basis. Just gaining access to them, not straightforward. You don't know the quality, you don't know the format or the standards it might be used. So, how do you start to overcome all of those things? Well, some time ago, led by the Rail Supply Group and a number of others across the industry, there was a desire to create a rail data marketplace, a single access point that brought together different forms of rail data and simplified those, made those easy to use. So you could, you can come along, you can find the data, and you can just get it and use it. So that was the aspiration and the vision for the rail data marketplace. It had a number of objectives, as you would imagine, from providing access to create a better customer experience, sharing data to allow operational efficiency, supporting growth, not just across rail, but that broader cross-modal use of public transport, supporting innovation and the move towards green, and allowing something for the next generation of data scientists to get their teeth into. So we have been busy trying to create a rail data marketplace, you may say. What's one of those look like and how does it work? Well, just a kind of a simplified view here, a catalogue of the data in a standardized format, so you can compare different sorts of data, you can get a standard amount of information about it. A little wizard, a kind of a route through for publishers to post their data up on the marketplace. An ability to have content around that data, so a rich vein of information to allow you to decide whether this particular data source is going to be of some use. And that content may be data, diagrams about the data model, it might be how to use, or it might be simple information about how regularly it's updated or what the quality is like. A data licensing agreement, so creating those data sharing agreements, allowing both parties to sign them easily and without preferably resorting to lawyers. A community element, and also that kind of technical function of how do you manage the API, how do you manage the security teams, making sure that process is robust. Then some, analysis of data, what are people looking for? What are the challenges we face and how might the data address those? And then finally, you'll see in the corner, billing and invoicing and the platforms having that functionality. And that's because this isn't just about making open data available, but allowing publishers to sell their data on the marketplace in a true form of the marketplace. So that's roughly what it contains. Just a couple of pictures of what it looks like. So, a data catalogue there, different types of data, telling you whether it's free or subscription, an ability to search across it. If you're coming to publish, then, I talked about this idea of a wizard, putting information in about your product, so completing it in a form style, so capturing that information in a consistent and robust way, using a standardized taxonomy so that we can tag the data, that we can find it again. Then in terms of licensing, allowing publishers to choose and control how they make their data available. So they might make it available entirely openly, or they might choose to put some restrictions around it, only allowing it to be used in academia or within an organisation or not for sale. So hopefully giving some of that, the granular level of control that publishers have said that they need. So I'm going to hand over now, hopefully without having the screen go off. To, I hand over to Claire. Excellent. Yes, very true.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Chad.
All right, and move the slide. So, which,
One forward.
okay, there we go. There we go.
The key principles that we worked on when we've been developing the marketplaces, it really is about bringing together publishers, data publishers and data consumers together. So making the collaboration easy. Within the platform, we will have a sense of community where publishers and consumers can use and work together on real world use cases and challenges to drive that innovation. Whilst open data is default, is an aspiration, we are fronted by the DFT with the requirement to be cost neutral. So we have built in various charging options for those that want to commercialise their data sets. I'll talk a little bit more detail about the licensing, but through the user research, licensing data and data ownership was seen as costly. So we've worked with bespoke lawyers on data to create those licenses with the hope that up to about 80% of people use the off-the-shelf licenses to make that experience friction-free. As mentioned earlier, we need to be cost neutral. And as Jez alluded to, you know, and also when we've lifted the bonnet on our own data sets, perhaps within our DG and other areas, you know, data is not consistent. So what data will be published on the Real Data Marketplace will be well documented, where that data has maybe gaps, and a true kind of description of what that data can and can't do. As I say, conditions of use. Through the research as well, there was some nervousness and sensitivity about opening up data. So the ability to control who has access to the data, what they can do with it subsequently, what regions they can use it in. So it's about giving a level of control to publishers in order to encourage publishers to use the platform and create a breadth of data sets. So in terms of the actual licensing, we didn't know whether the Real Data Marketplace would be the filling in the sandwich. So you'd have the data publisher, the Real Data Marketplace and the consumer. Having taken advice, a data publisher and a data consumer will register on the platform and have a contract or an agreement with the Real Data Marketplace. But when the data publisher makes available their data, a consumer will contract directly with that data publisher. So that really, again, empowers the data publisher and opens up a level of communication between the two parties as well. So where are we in the project? We are well into build at the moment. We are going to enter private beta in January. We have 10 sample data sets and around 10 different consumers. So it's quite a rich private beta. So you'll be able to publish an API. So we're API first, but later we'll be able to support flat files and PubSub. But private beta is pure API. So you can publish your API, you can price your API and various conditions. The contract builder is there. And the consumer will be able to register on the platform and subscribe to that data set. So it's quite functionally rich when we go get. And we'll move to public beta in March and April, and then full live in October. And the last iteration will be the full delivery of that functionally rich area, certainly around community, which we believe is really important from the research about driving innovation and ultimately driving growth in rail. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As I said, I will not take the questions from the audience. We will go through the presentations real quick. So, and then you will be able to chat with them here today. So our next speaker is Amanda Ho, who's joining us online, and I can see Amanda on the screen here. I'll try and drag her camera on our big screen. So Amanda, if you start sharing your screen, and then we'll see if we can actually hear you as well.
I thought you were driving it.
Hold on a second, I might need to change some settings.
Can you hear me, Milda?
Oh, yeah, I got you now.
Hello. I thought you were driving it from your end.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. I actually am. I totally forgot that we have agreed to do that. So there we go. I will try. See, there we go. So you can actually see it on here. And by the way, if you're tweeting, please use the Twitter hashtag #UnlockRail. Right, I am ready to go.
Right, thank you very much. So I'm sorry that I can't be with you all in Birmingham today. And the keynote speech that I'm going to give now follows on really rather nicely from the Rail Data Marketplace presentation that you've just heard from Jez and Clare. So what I'd like to do is introduce myself. I'm Amanda Hall. I'm sponsoring the Enrich project, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a moment. And I'm Network Rail's engineering expert for systems. So next slide, please. So what is Enrich? It is the Network Rail's response really to the data marketplace. So it stands for Enhanced Network Rail Information Interchange. And as we've heard, there are various problems in unlocking the value from data. So from a Network Rail perspective, we have in common a lot of the issues that Jez has just talked about. So we have data in silos, which makes it difficult for people to access, and it inhibits the creative use and combination of those data for innovative means. We've heard about the commercial and legal barriers, which we face too, and there are very many different data formats and types of systems. Often these are not particularly well documented, which makes it difficult for anybody who wasn't involved in their development to use the data in an intelligent way. And there are sometimes issues with data quality, and within Network Rail, certainly, we have some heavy-duty systems and processes which limit our ability to make changes, break into that, and do things that are creative and innovative. Next slide, please.
Sorry.
Thank you. So what we want to do is to take a pragmatic approach to tackling all of this. And so within Network Rail, what we are doing within Enrich is to develop an extensible and flexible means of sharing data. What we want to do is not reinvent the wheel, but as part of our pragmatic approach, we want to use the strengths of existing platforms and systems, and to align with the sorts of wider industry initiatives that we've just heard about. So the Rail Data Marketplace, the work that's been going on in the Rail Data Council and the Data and Information Systems Interface Committee. And what we're aiming for is to have a unified and standardized and well-documented way of representing these data, with the view that this will take out quite a lot of the cost and effort in people using that data and doing clever things with it. As we've heard from RDG, then there are some simplified legal arrangements that need to be in place, and we're aligning with that, and we aim to use the principles of the Open Government License. So that's a no strings approach, so no guarantees and no liability. However, for particular data streams and particular endeavours, we can also do some bespoke arrangements where a service level agreement needs to be put in place for the users. And the approach that we're taking is a data product paradigm. So very much from a user perspective, and as part of the development work in Enrich, we're basing this on 3 different flavors of data use case, and I'll say a bit more about that in a minute. Next slide, please. So don't concentrate too much on the architecture slide. This is obviously a simplified version of it, but this is the approach that we're taking. So we will be using data sources that are both derived from internal to Network Rail, but also ones that are derived external to Network Rail. And then what you can see in, as we move towards the middle of the diagram, then we can see that it's our intent to use shared data models and standards. And the idea is to have conformity and harmonization of the data and remold that and reshape it in order to align with user needs. And then to present that data in a standard logical way to make use and integration much easier. And you'll see that, that we've got documentation in there, which I've talked about the importance of already in order to make things easier for users again. And you can see the Rail Data Marketplace up on the right there. And we certainly intend to be using that as part of what we're trying to achieve. But also there may be some other users, internal to Network Rail or others, where we use things that don't go through the Rail Data Marketplace. But certainly we're aligned with the Rail Data Marketplace and fully intend to use it. Next slide. So for the Enrich R&D programme, we've got some objectives, and what you can see on the screen is very much sort of the what, the why, and the how. So if we start with the what, so what we're trying to do here is to have a central data access point within Network Rail for trusted data, and that can be easily accessed for people to share. We're going to use the standard financial models and contractual templates that you've heard about for the Rail Data Marketplace. And we want to have and set up a streamlined process in order that we can handle the governance of all of this. And the why, it's really quite simple. We realised that for many years now, we have been spending a lot of time marshalling and collating data in order to get it in a usable and integratable and shareable form. And actually, we'd much rather be spending time analysing that data and making it work for us and gaining benefit from it. And then the how. So I mentioned that we're going to use, as a means to develop this, various use cases in order to validate both the technical and the contractual models, and allow the 3 use cases that we've picked to start with some early implementation, because we've done some previous work on this and they're the most high value use cases that we found. Next slide, please. So a little bit about those 3 use cases. So the phase that we're in for Enrich at the moment is the demonstrator phase. And if we look at the use cases here, then from our previous work, the feedback we got from industry was that a very valuable data stream that people wanted to have shared and for it to be easy to use is the track center line. So that's, on the face of it, quite a simple data stream. It's just the track center line data going through the Enrich marketplace and going out to the community. And that's an example of some internal Network Rail data being shared externally. Then the next use case 2, is an example of internal Network Rail data being shared externally again. And this is taking the wild wheel impact load detector data and also the fibre optic acoustic sensing data and merging that in a smart way in order to give an enhanced view of what's happening with wheel sets. and that will be published out to the relevant train operators and freight operators. Then for use case 3, we've got a slightly different example, which is some external data being used internally within Network Rail. So we've got the alert overhead line monitoring system, which is mounted to a TOC vehicle, and that will be flowing into Network Rail through Enrich and being used by one of our regions, Wales and Western. Next slide, please. So this is a bit about progress as to where we've got to. So I mentioned that we've done a little bit of work in this area already. And in phase 1, you can see the green ticks. So those are the things that we've already done. Phase 2 is the stage that we're in now, which is the demonstrator phase. And the arrows that you should be able to see across each of the orange rectangles shows you roughly how far through those activities we've got to. So, so setting up the API platform, setting up the dev build processes, working with RDG on drafting the legal framework, and starting to work with the various subject matter experts for the various use cases. And then you can see what our aspirations are for the next phase, in phase 3, for the sorts of things that we'll need to do in order to move to production. Next slide, please. So, how can we help? We're obviously rather excited about this, and we want other people to be excited and want to use it too. So we'd like it very much if people wanted to be early adopters of this. The thing that helps us there is that, especially when we're in the development phase and moving through into production, then any feedback that we can get from people very much helps with the work that we do and the quality of the product that we launch at the end of it. And we've got the 3 use cases that our previous work has indicated are high value, but we don't have all of the good ideas. So certainly suggestions of any new data topics or use cases would be very gratefully received. And also contributors. So people who want to provide data sources through Enrich would be very welcome. And also people who are interested in providing data services. So when we come to production, then there'll certainly be a market for activities like cleaning, merging and mapping of data. I've put my email address on the bottom of the slide for people to contact me for any thoughts, comments, suggestions. And as I'm not there today, then a couple of my colleagues who are involved in the Enrich programme are in Birmingham and will be circulating. So, so they're with Network Rail and they're Smitha and Joshua. And that's the end for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation, Amanda, and really looking forward to hear more as the project develops. Right, I need to make sure that the settings are still okay. You still can hear me. Excellent, great. So now I would like to invite our next speaker, James Daniel from HS2, talk about your work.
Everyone, James Daniel, here for HS2. Quick caveat: I'm in post for 9 weeks, so you probably know more about the business than I do. Bit of background: I'm an ex-consultant for Aecon, URS, ex-contractor, Scancer and Kier, so I've been purchase and gamekeeper, become client, so I've done all 3. Only when I joined as a client did I really appreciate how big the organisation was and how big the project was. It's massive, isn't it? It's complex. It's so many things happening at any given time. My email is growing already. The amount of information that's coming into my inbox and my team's inbox. So, key facts, you guys should know this because it gets talked about a lot. But if you want to find anything else, please do visit our website and have a look in more detail about what we're doing. Lots of activity at the moment. Phase 1, Well underway, one of the construction, some of the images that I've referenced, some of the activities that are happening there. Phase 2, well underway, and obviously we're waiting for that. But we'll continue with our progression. So when we talk about how big it is, obviously huge amount of sites, huge amount of activity. When you drive around parts of the UK, you'll see these construction sites. You probably will either connected to them or have some sort of affiliation to them, or you've worked on them. Thank you, fantastic, brilliant work. I hope to go and find and see more of these sites in the coming future. But there's some really, really big information being produced as a result of these projects. And you can't do it traditionally, can't do the paper, it has to be done digitally. There are so many moving parts in this that it just is huge. So, you know, biggest infrastructure projects in Victorians. There'll be a bigger one in a few years, I'm sure, but at the moment, this is the one that we're dealing with. Everything here is just phenomenal. And yes, we still use paper, it still has a place, but there's a huge amount of information that sits around the environment. So obviously why it's doing, we're going to increase capacity, we're going to try and be a bit more environmentally friendly, and we're going to try and connect the rest of the country to each other. One of the big things is carbon. I did touch on it very briefly, but obviously that is the big subject of today's discussions around innovation. Jez and Clare and Amanda will be spoken about it. In terms of making sure you've got the right information around data sets, structured information, that helps us understand what's happening with things like carbon and materials and costs. But I want to talk briefly, and I apologise, I'm speaking quickly because I've given them another 46 slides to talk through in 15 minutes. So do watch it back or download the slides or come and find me in the break if it doesn't make any sense. So our ambition is to develop a virtual railway and hand over a digital twin 2 years before we put a human being on the train. So we'll test it and deliver it before we actually deliver it. That makes sense. You hear a lot of talk around digital twins. I've heard far too much information discussion around digital twins, and now I can't split it. Everyone can see the bit at the top, but no one has a clue what's underneath. That's the bit that worries me. That's the bit that worries you too. When we have images like this, they are amazing. They're fantastic. Brilliant supply chain. If you're a say thank you, they are great. They really help us talk to our customers and our stakeholders. But you can't produce that without information. Information is structured. Information is structured, detailed, and considered and rationalised. You know, that didn't appear by magic. It didn't appear overnight. It's taken a lot of information, a lot of conversations, a lot of discussions to get to that point. But it's one element of digital twin. One element of an asset. You know, you wouldn't necessarily want to operate your asset on the back of that model. And sadly, we still have a lot of attitudes in our industry where we're still thinking the same ways, expecting that we're going to get different results. It doesn't happen. I've used this slide for 12 years. And it still looks really familiar and quite painfully relevant today, doesn't it? And I appreciate my guys, so do shout at me. The image up on the left there, that's my old desk from 15 years ago, Facebook houses. And that set of drawings, each individual part is for a subcontractor's tiling package for a social housing company. And they are charged with putting 32 tiles up in bathrooms. You don't need that much information. So what that system is unstructured, the blame's been shifted, and nobody had to clear what they're giving their supply chain, which makes it much harder than developing stuff. So for me, the fact that that still happens now worries me. We have lots of digital tools that no one can use. You know, we've talked about interoperability this morning, talked about connectivity. It's still a problem. Can we still use old-fashioned processes? I won't pick on the surveyors today, but I still do that with rules of both of us. If we're going to be truly digital, we have to change. We have to change the way we do things. We have to look at it holistically, culturally, and systematically. At the moment, we are still doing things in a very iterative process. What we're trying to do as an organisation, HS2, and as an industry, I believe, is become much more centralised in the way that we manage our information digitally. In order to do that, we have to understand our landscape. We have to understand what our requirements are. You can swap out the text around these pictures and you could apply it to any part of your business that you operate in. You know, with so many times, me personally, I've gone out and bought something, invested in something that isn't really appropriate. You know, hand me this in the room and done that actually in person. Right systems, right computers, you know, it's there. We need to just break it down and understand what it is we need to do. And already we've heard this morning, we'll probably hear it again in the next couple of presentations, the importance of data. Data is all over our projects, it's all around us. It's a bit structured, So when it's unstructured, we get inundated with it. It's what we do with it that counts. Doesn't matter how much of it is that we receive or how little, but it's important that we use it correctly. Otherwise, it's wasted. So very briefly, I'm going to jump into the BIM conversation because my background is predominantly BIM. You know what BIM is? Should do. There's a really good website called BIMupskilling.org, which is an HS2 funded website that helps you become upskilled and more educated around BIM, which is really, really useful. But this is a process that we have end to end with our supply chain. Okay, it's basically telling what our supply chain can do for us. So we have employers doing information requirements or work instructions, telling our companies what they're going to do digitally for us. What are you going to give us? When are you going to give it to us? What formats are you going to give it to us in? So we can start to process and understand information. Once we've got that, we can then work with our supply chain, contractors, subcontractors, so and we can understand where we're going to get it, how we're going to get it, and how we're going to use it. Once we have that, we start to look at how we're going to manage our assets, how we're going to work with operators at the end stage process. That then allows us to start on additional twins. So we have a vision in HS2. Our vision is to basically deliver our virtual railway 2 years before we put it on the steroid. And a little time, okay?
All right.
Good. Basically, digital twin is we have a virtual version of the physical version. Yeah, really simply put, we can stress test, scenario plan, challenge our asset virtually with all different types of information, all different types of scenarios in the virtual world before we hit the physical world. But equally, we can take physical information that we've acquired and taken over time, such as machine learning, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, bring it back into the virtual worlds and then see whether it stacks up, see what the impact is for preventative maintenance as opposed to reactive. So, probably a much better way of describing it rather than my ham-fisted approach just now. But what it's providing us is assurance, providing confidence that actually we know that our asset is working and it's delivering on time and on budget. He's up, and I think we need zero reporting that people bring back up this in more detail. But it does bring together all that information that we've already talked about this morning, different supply chain, different elements of our supply chain, right now from people that create the ramps, the wheelchairs onto trains, right out to network rail dispatch controllers, everything in the same. That's what a digital twin will provide. How are we going to deliver it? Well, it is iterative. You can't just turn up tomorrow morning and say, hey, I've got a digital twin. You have to start with the design, you have to then look at what goes into that. How do you develop that digital railway? How do you develop that asset? Then when you get to construction, you have to make sure that it's constructible and the information you created from the design side of things is built. And make sure that information is collected, it's handed over, it's rationalised, it's approved, and owned and managed. Once you start doing that, you start getting it tested and commissioned. Doesn't matter if it's a railway, nightclub, housing estate, factory. You want to make sure that what you bought works. And you check that against the information you've received and what you've built. And then you start being able to look at the operation and maintenance, where the bulk of the investment and the bulk of the money will reside over the period of the lifestyle of the asset. And I love this, because I've been talking about people, process, technology for years, 15, 20 years. I love the fact that in that, even now, digital twin, and I suspect in the last two presentations about this morning, there is that touch on people. People are really important to deliver our assets. If we don't train them properly, we don't understand what the operational requirements are, or the digital engineering or the design requirements are, then we're not going to get anything around this whole process. It's affected by things like governance, organizational change, re-engineering our business processes, taking all of that and putting it into business intelligence. So we have a vision, and what I like here is these images will be repeated, every single one has a person attached to it. Because people are always going to be that fundamental part of how you deliver a process. Technology will change, will evolve, will get better, will get worse. Processes will be created, processes will be ignored, processes which should be there all the way through, but it's the people that you have to consider.
No, just my computer decides to go for a little sleep. There we go.
We look at we have visualise our asset, we want to visualise the design, so we have things with visualisation now, which I could talk about in the break. But that's bringing together all the different information here, so things like our asset data, so project wise, GViewer, and our asset information database. If you know what that is, brilliant. If you don't, not a problem, come talk to me on my card. That pulls together information to one source, allows us to visualise what that model's doing. What are they doing? Well, it's bringing together a 3D model with intelligence. Linking that data, that's the bit that's important. That's what we talked about already this morning and continue to talk about. It's linking our data sets. It's putting together all the things around cost, health and safety, programs, design. Access idea. How does our digital vendors help people? It helps us, encourage the workforce to join our industry. It supports our workforce. We can bring in new jobs, bring in new people. Within our business, we have this upskilling website that's available to everybody. There's all leaders, leaders, considering working in this industry. How do we do that? Well, we have skill with given the tools to start asking the right questions about why they want to join this industry. Rather geekishly, I've done this personally before I joined the business because I think it's a really, really good platform. It's free. It's a really good way to start asking questions about what you want to do with supply chain and what you do for your clients. So if I just go back one slide. In terms of things like engineering teams and the train operators, how do we get our information through to those people in the process? We have to collaborate better. Let's talk to our rail system designers and our main work civil and our main work safety, contractors. Bring all that information at one place. Getting everyone to talk about what to design, what we're doing, sharing that information, collaborating. That's the bit that's really important. Understanding that once we've collaborated, we're assured that information is correct, then we can deliver it without mistakes. Improving workflows. How many of you receive information via email rather than, accommodation rights or structured information exchanges? Now we still have information these untracked, uncontrolled. By just making sure that we have improved workflows, that we have reduced risk, which I think is really important. It's the small things that count. Reducing the touch points, less double handling, less versions of the truth, if you will. Now, I've got this version and you've got that version. Make sure you just have one version. Making sure that it's the right version is most important. Making sure that you have the right people in the right review sessions. Make sure they have the right information available to them. Making sure that this holistic view of digital twins and digital environments is working and achievable. Improve relationships. And I'm sorry, I don't know who leave you guys on any really basis. I'm looking around for something to be simple, not working. So really, what we need to do is make sure we improve our relationships, get people to talk to each other, share company secrets, share your workload, share your processes, talk about the challenges you have and how you want to overcome them. We work with some fantastic contractors, fantastic supply chain. We've gone sat with them, asked them questions, we've done more discussion, discovery sessions, in order to make our workloads better, in order to make sure they have assurance and confidence that they're delivering. That's really important. Why is it important? Because these people need the information. They need to be able to operate it. Once we have the information, you can start to sense check, start to look at benefits, start to realise benefits. So this is a BIM benefits process that we have. So when we start looking at how we deliver projects digitally, we can start to track all of those objectives, start to track all the capabilities and the outcomes we get from our supply chain, whether it's consultant, constructive or a branch provider for a real service. Once we understand that, we can start to look at what the objectives are against our own business. We can start to look at the benefits and define whether we need to focus areas that are concerned or champion areas that are excellent. Start to report that because we love reports and just we love a dashboard. But those dashboards are really, really important because it helps us understand how to do that asset 2 years ahead of schedule. By doing that, to be honest with it, understanding more about this coming rather than less. Now, I hope I've done that in 15 minutes.
You did, actually.
I'm out of breath.
I think you've got 2 minutes to spare, too.
So I was really great that you did that in break, which is
Yeah.
great. But I hope that helps provide some information on what we're doing. It's a huge subject. We believe in compliance status, do wherever we are, and then happy to have a chat.
Excellent, thank you very much, and yeah, looking forward to seeing those relationships forming and developing and blossoming into new partnerships. So we've heard from an infrastructure owner, a major project, a data marketplace, an aggregator, and I would like to invite now a train operating company. This agenda has been specifically designed to cover all of the areas of our industry and see what everyone is doing. So Christine, welcome on stage. Gordon has lots of interesting things going on in this area. So here's a clicker. Here's a microphone. I think that way. Yeah, you can.
Just at 1 year, I've had a chest infection recently, so I sound a little bit hoarse. I don't want to do cheese and really cough up in my mouth. I'd like to stop my being first, I'll be okay. So I'm Christine Brown, Innovation Manager at Northern, and I'm the one and only Innovation Manager. So if you want to talk to Northern, I'm contact I have, I think. I'm just going to talk a little bit about Northern as a business, and then the kind of innovations that we've been working on, which have a data focus, and how we've worked in this marketplace. So we are the second largest stock in the UK in Northern. I'm not sure if many people realise that. We're the largest outside of London. We cover everywhere from Stoke on Trent all the way to Carlisle and Newcastle. There's a station off is Chatshill, which is northern Scotland. I couldn't even find a map of our network that would fit on the slides and have all of our stations on it. We have over 7,000 people in Northern. We deliver over 2,200 services a day. That's going to increase this weekend. We have a timetable uplift. And we operate 364 trains, which are maintaining 4 depots right across the North of England. Because it's such a large network, we also have around 40 other locations where we can do basic business and cleaning jobs. And we call it over 500 stations. I think it's about 550. It's somewhere around 20% of stations in the UK we call that. We manage 469 times, just to give you an idea of the scale of our business. And we operate on everything from sort of really small branch lines, which are great for testing new things. And we operate on really high speed main lines. We've got a good mix of traction, we have electrics, we're mostly diesel, but we do have a couple of Ironman 769s as well. And we serve a population of around 15 million people. So we've talked a couple of times about customer and bringing the customer back into this. Our customer base is huge. And they're not just commuters, they're families, they're students, they're people going on an ale trail, they're people going out for they're tourists, they're going out for a day out somewhere, they're going on, to go watch their favourite football team. So our demands are huge. We can't just focus on one particular group. We've got, I think, around 8 customer personas to try and help us understand our customers and deliver the service that they want. But attracting people back to rail after COVID is difficult. To be able to deliver that service, our vision, you can see, is to make a positive impact on the North in all that we do and for all that we serve. Recent economic studies show that for every pound that the government invests in our network, we actually generate £2.50 in economic activity. So our impact on the North is huge, just as a railway operator. Our business challenges are probably broadly similar that you will have seen from other talks. It's accessibility, it's safety. It's about that environmental impact and understanding that and reducing it. But I think particularly pertinent for today is our use of data. We work with a lot of people, and it's quite nice actually sometimes when it comes to these events and I can see people that I recognise because we've worked on things. I'm looking at James now there, and Victor and Rob obviously have got spotlights today. We work with them. We're big on collaboration. We work with the talks as well. Rail is a difficult industry to kind of innovate in. We don't have that same kind of imperative to existence. It's hard to imagine this country without railways. And it kind of gives us a sense of complacency that we can kind of just keep doing things that we've always done them. Because people continue to come back to rail no matter how bad of the service we give them. But we still have to be focused on bringing that life in there. People do, you know, every single day people get onto pack trains, so they complain and they hate it, but they do it the day after. So we need to give people better, we need to give them more. We can maybe do something better with application, but innovation is going to be key to really driving that improvement, to really increasing our network, to really keeping the railway safe and modern for the future, giving people what they need. So in the digital kind of area, what I'm normally doing in terms of innovation. We worked a lot with Pro-Angel and Source Learning to introduce serious gaming into our business. We have now tried a training tool, which is about how to couple. Previously, this would have been something somebody could just stood in front of a classroom and talk them through a process. They'd have waited their turn, then they stood on the platform, bashed 2 trains together, maybe get 5 minutes to do that, and then the next person was like that. What we've got now is a serious game where people can play and they can do each individual step of that process until they feel comfortable and competent to do it. So when they get onto that train for the first time, they know what they're doing, they're comfortable in that environment, they just get on with it. So when they have that hands-on experience, it's more valuable. And it's not just for our staff that we're bringing serious games, so we won an award at the UK Customer Experience Awards this year for Best Innovation Customer Experience with an accessibility game. And that allows our customers with disability to choose an avatar which represents their needs, explore a station, make a train journey, breaking down the barriers that we have sometimes to people's confidence in travelling, particularly when they have disabilities and invisible disability in particular. The nice advantage of kind of bringing these digital things in is that we get back-end data, so bring it back into the day. So traditionally, even with training, people would have just got on with it. What we can do now is look at each individual step. Where do people go wrong? Where do people who are disabled have pinch points within stations? Where are the bits that they're getting stuck on? Where are they scared to travel to? How can we do that? We have the data that tells us that. It's not subjective anymore. It's empirical. It's there. It's written down. We can use that to improve our customer service and to improve our training. We've also done a lot of work in our intelligent trade space. So this year, I was able to work with LMER on their Future Labs Innovation Accelerator Programme. And I worked with Milda, I think we've got a spotlight here today, so hopefully they're here. And they worked with us to produce a community maintenance tool. So traditionally, all of our maintenance is kind of pound spanner. It's not a digital thing, it's quite old-fashioned. But it means we have a lot of downtime. Units come in, they have to be checked at certain mileage points, even though there's not anything wrong with them. It also means that we spend a lot of time and effort and money on unplanned maintenance. It directly impacts our customers, maybe have cancellations because units aren't available, or delays because units that aren't available, they need to be checked with to shuffle things around, which is difficult. So working with them is a real pleasure actually in that predictive maintenance space. How can we minimise that downtime? We've also done a lot of work with intelligent trains. So you can see here our 150, which is installed with radar, LiDAR and thermal camera. And it's out in passenger service now. James is mouthing at me. If you want to know more about that, you can speak to James because he's the expert. He fits into a lot of that equipment for us. It's out in passenger service now. So that's going to be scanning the environment as it moves around. It's almost like a mini measurement train. It's looking for problems in bridges, tunnels, overhanging vegetation and issues like that. We're also installing the bogey sensors and hand spread sensors on some of our units so that we can pick up issues with OLE and with traffic. It's kind of taking that subjectivity out of the rough writing report and experience, improving customer experience, but also minimising the amount of time that the rail staff have to spend looking for those faults when we do report them. And it puts that empirical level of data on top. How serious is this flaw? Is this something that could be potentially relevant? Is it something that can wait a couple of weeks before they go real bad and look at it? Because at the moment, we're relying on a driver going, yeah, it was pretty rough. We're also doing something like on teaching our CCTV to intelligence, so can it recognise when it's happened? CCTV is essential for keeping people safe on board. You know, how frustrating is that when something happens to you and somebody says, no, sorry, the camera's not working, they've been vandalised, and we didn't know about it. So we're looking on that. We're teaching our cameras to recognise when the door opens in traffic, which is a safety issue. It doesn't happen often, thankfully, but it's something. Can we digitise that? Can we make sure that we've got that evidence there available for us? Can we put the brakes on as soon as the camera nurses that are driving over? And can the cameras recognise how many people are in the train and which part of the train are they in? Because if we know that, then we can direct people who are waiting on platforms to the right part of the train to get on board when the train arrives. So no longer are we going to have a thought car train which is jam packed in the front and empty at the back. Creating fun for passengers and helping us out because it reduces that amount of dwell time in the stations. So you can see the kind of the data channels that are on this train now and the amount of information that comes off our trains. From our CAF fleet, I think we get somewhere in the region around 1.2 terabytes of data every single day. That's on everything from speed, braking, page back, any kind of component that's digital or producing data. And it's a lot of data to work with. I think nationally we have kind of a data analysis and data handling skills shortage, and people kind of hinted at that previously. We get a lot of data in, but we don't necessarily have the capability to do anything effective with it. Which is why it's great working with SMEs who do have that ability and that capability. What I would say is if you're going to come to us and you want to work with us or any other talk, do it early, get in touch with the server, so you understand what data we hold, but also what our capabilities are, because you can have the best thing in the world, but if we can't handle that data, we're not going to take it any further. Equally, as we're moving into the kind of the real data marketplace, what do you want to see? Because we're having conversations now with the North, and we want to be on this marketplace, we want to be part of this revolution. But the sheer amount of information that we hold means it's difficult for us to understand what's valuable to you. What do you need? What should we put on there? Because we can have conversations till the cows come home and we can decide what we're going to do. And you might be sat there going, well, that's no good to me. So if you see me around today, or if you want to get in touch either sort of through an email there or on LinkedIn, you can find me, let me know. What do you want from Melbourne? What do you think we hold? And I can have a little dig around, we'll see if we've got it, and we can talk about that value of getting onto the marketplace. So you can do what you do and help us improve the experience that our customers get. And that's everything from me. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Milda.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. It's fascinating to hear about your project. I've heard about the Intelligent Trains program a few times, and I learn something new every time I hear about it. The good thing is also that the train operating companies and innovation managers actually talk to each other. So if you do get in touch with Christine and she can't help, I'm sure she will be passing around the problem with the others. So your actually request might reach a bigger audience. Right, so now moving on, I would like to invite our member and a big supplier. So you see where I'm going with this whole lineup of speakers. Please come along, Andrew, and tell us all about what you've been up to.
Thank you very much, Milda, and thank you very much, everyone. Good morning, everyone. So yes, my name's Andrew Hunter, and my role is Head of Technical Solutions for Thales UK. It's a great job, it really is. Like many in the room, I get to play with the technology, which a big technical supplier has access to. But I also work with SMEs, like many in the room, and just have the opportunity to look to see how we can get the best from SMEs, sponsor SMEs, and take technology that might exist within a big supplier like Thales and improve intelligent railways within the UK. And what I'd like to cover today, and building on what James was saying, digital culture, how this is an important enabler for making any of the changes that we've been talking about today. I really want to try and land the points that we're not going to be successful unless we do things differently. So let's see how that goes. I've then got a couple of case studies which, unplanned, happen to fit in rather nicely. The first two are two of Amanda's use cases for Enrich, just by coincidence, and the third one relates directly to the real data marketplace. But it's not the marketplace. The case study that I'm going to talk about is much more the data and the state of the data at the input to the marketplace. And what we can do is try and get a little bit more integrity and quality into that data. But first, just as a little bit of context, and I'll come back to this, I left my iPhone on the table here. Yeah, it's a phone, great. The iPhone was launched in 2007, and some of the technologies I'm going to talk about, whether it's signaling technologies, ETCS was launched in 2006, or whether it's some of the data and the data tools and infrastructure that the railway runs on today are from the 80s and 90s. So just remember, the things I'm talking about are generally pre-iPhone, and I'll come back to how we might manage that just in a minute. So from a culture perspective, if we carry on doing things the way we do today, we shouldn't expect different results. I really like this little graphic, and I hope it's clear enough about what we do in Talis from Digital Culture Manifesto. Now, the way to read this is you take the top word and you say over the bottom one. So we want to have a world where we have empowerment over control. Okay, so we're empowering the people and getting people to take those risks and feel empowered, where we use data over opinions. There are too many examples around the rail industry at the moment where it's driven by opinions and feelings and gut reaction. The data's there. How do we actually take informed decisions using the data? Test and learn over plans. Now, those of you who know me, I'm a railway signalling engineer. I like to have safety critical things done by process with a clear plan and absolutely robustly. This one is difficult for me, but not as difficult as the last one that I'll come to. World with agile project management and where things are done just a little bit differently. The planning doesn't have to be quite the way we have always done it traditionally. Collaboration over protection, and case studies I show you will talk a lot about collaboration with customers and SMEs. Really important, users rather than customers. Again, commercial organisation, member of the Railway Industry Association, I respect from the customers. Thank you. But I really want to talk to the users, please. Not just the customers, not just the contract meeting, not just the project manager. I want to talk to drivers. I want to talk to maintainers. I want to talk to signallers. And these are the people that really will inform the systems of the future. And I'd like to say, please, can we get real access to that type of resource? And then, as I said, the one that's most difficult for me as a signal engineer, failure over not trying. The adage from American entrepreneurs that if you're a failed entrepreneur and you've only failed once, you haven't really done anything yet. Whereas to a Brit, failure, it's not good. So failure over not trying. Let's try some of these things. Let's try some proof of concepts, some controlled trials, some shadow mode running, just to get the data to understand what we can do in the future. So the digital culture, this is a big change. And I think I really want to make it clear that this has to be launched into with our eyes open and managed as a change, rather than just expecting it to happen by default. It won't. Oops, here we go. So, radio-based limited supervision. This is the first of my 3 short case studies. On this timeline, back in 2019, Network Rail issued a challenge. And that was, well, given the timescales that it's taking to implement ETCS as a signalling system, are Network Rail's existing train protection systems fit for the future? We're sitting in a world where for the last 20 odd years, there's been a plan to fit ETCS. There is still a plan to fit ETCS, but it's not yet clear or documented, and we're not absolutely sure how long it will take. It could take 40 years. So, the existing systems will exist for the next 30 to 40 years. Are they fit for purpose? Collaboration. Network Rail launched an excellent collaborative process with suppliers, many of whom are in this room today, to sit down and say, are our systems that we have today really fits for the future, given that it's going to take a while to get the new systems in place. And out of that came radio-based limited supervision, which is a background system which is built on train protection and warning system, which continuously supervises the actions of the driver. This is the speed and the speed of the train effectively against the dynamic signalling system. Now, taking good digital culture, the requirements have been established using agile project management, and Network Rail have worked closely with suppliers, Park Signaling, Unipart, Siemens, Alstom, Thales, and others have all been deeply involved in the generating the requirements for this train protection system. It's been done in a hugely collaborative way, and during the process, various demonstrations, demonstrators, etc. have been built, proof of concepts, so that people are getting confidence in the real equipment and what it looks like and how it can function. So, it's coming together. We're at an innovation day today. Innovations fail. Who knows if this will be successful, but it's a good example of collaboration. And it has a clear migration path to ETCS. Pictures are hardware. Another class 150, Christine. This one's got radar, LiDAR, and it hasn't got thermal imaging camera on it, but yeah. This one's running around in the West Country with radio-based limited supervision system on it in a shadow mode running, just collecting data. And the secret here, it looks just like TPWS, Mark IV control unit, normal HMI, and an extra computer. It is just that, but it takes the centre line data that Amanda mentioned as part of her Enrich project, and it uses clever sensor fusion from the 3 or 4 sensors that are on the train, so that the train knows exactly where it is at all times. And the sensor fusion algorithm is the clever little bit that makes it a little bit challenging. It's been interesting just getting that right. But this signaling system, train protection system, sorry, knows where the train is, and as such can continuously supervise speed. The migration path to ETCS is there. The economics kind of work. On the left, you see TPWS AWS gives you a certain safety value for a certain price. Over on the right, ETCS gives you significantly more safety, but also costs quite a bit more. If there was an interim step for rural railways, perhaps, you can get a significant part of the safety value for a lower cost. So that's kind of the economics of how it works. But coming back to the iPhone, it's got a great thing. You can call people on the telephone. It's a telephone, but that's not how most of us use our iPhone today or any type of phone. It's a platform. It hosts apps. We are communicating, we are collaborating, we're taking photographs, we are texting, whatever. The actual telephone functionality of the phone is rarely used these days, I have to say. If you have a system on a train which knows exactly and robustly where that train is, then you can build a whole lot of apps onto that system as well. I was talking about train protection and warning system, RBLS. Yes, you can get speed supervision. Yes, you can monitor long blocks where user works crossings. Yes, you can do track fault detection or any of the other things that you see in that pyramid in the graphic. Think of it as a platform on which to build apps for the train. It's a functionality that's available. And yeah, it's got a vast amount of data. And quite how that data can be shared and processed is an interesting discussion for later, perhaps. Fibre optic acoustic sensing. Okay, so we're on Amanda's second use case by coincidence. I hadn't seen Amanda's slides before. What if you can hear what is happening out on the railway? Now, fibre optic acoustic sensing, the technology behind this is mature. It's mature, it's used, but I think it's safe to say it will never be a high integrity system. It's not got the type of integrity that many railway applications have. But a bit of a theme here. If you combine it with other sensors, smart CCTV, the wilds detectors that Amanda mentioned, and other Internet of Things type sensors, the combination of the data that you get from multiple sensors really begins to bring to life some really interesting use cases. So a nice tight little consortium of SMEs and international experts are working this on a proof of concept. It's not actually Old Dalby test track, it's on the main line that Melbourne over there. This is a live trial that's going on at the moment, and yeah, if you know how to read those orange blobs, then that's the trick, really. I'll give a couple of interpretations. The one on the left is a trespass use case. If you get a signature of the difference between a human walking and a deer or a fox walking, you can begin to use these smart sensors and fibre optic listening to identify trespass on the railway, or cable theft, or abuse of level crossings or use of works crossings, which aren't being used correctly. Train passing, yeah, the one the train there is going from left to right. If you had excellent eyesight, or zoom in on the recording later, you can see the individual wheels of a train passing at the point. But by contrast, the one on the right is a shorter train. It's got less axles, you can see, and it's going in the opposite direction. So it's really quite a proven technology. The challenge is in the data processing, the volume of data, and how you combine it with other sensors to make some meaning out of what you're receiving is the challenge with this technology. It's early TRL, this is not mature product level stuff yet, but it's a really interesting challenge related to data. And the last one that I want to go on to, rail data management. I've got two questions and a challenge. Now, as I said earlier, this is my perception and my perspective of rail data management. It's not about the rail data marketplace. That's an excellent initiative, fully support it. It's not really about Enrich either, that Amanda was talking about. But if you take the legacy systems that power our railway today, the Trust, the Darwin, the National Rail Inquiries, these systems have been around 80s, 90s. They're not really used for their original purpose anymore. They've been modified multiple times. If you were to draw an architecture that I hint at in the slide there, you find that the model looks like a bowl of spaghetti. This is not an elegant architecture. And asking the question is that why have the services such as personalised traffic information during times of disruption or mobility as a service, why have these not really been launched in the UK as people might expect them to be? I think part of the response to that is the quality and robustness of the data just isn't there. So I think my challenge is, should we really be thinking about those inputs to the rail data marketplace to spend some time working and modernising and bringing up to date those tools and systems that we rely on today to operate our railway, to bring them to modern standards? And I think that's the challenge. Is there a better way of doing this? Netflix, it doesn't operate like this. Amazon, it doesn't operate like this. Data lakes and microservices, these are standard tools and techniques in the data industry that we're not really engaging with in the UK. A glossy front end, the ability to transact, absolutely essential. The quality of what's behind, I think, from what needs done. So I think from that is there a better way perspective, I'd like to suggest or put out the challenge out there. We're in the UKRRIN building here today in Birmingham. UKRRIN's digital work stream is very mature, and I think maybe now's the time to challenge an organisation like UKRRIN to look at what other industries do and to perhaps undertake a feasibility study as to how the core rail data and systems could be modernised. So in conclusion, you can read the conclusions. We've got to embrace technology. Any change we make is about the people as much as it is about the technology. Collaborating, large suppliers, customers, SMEs, absolutely essential. But let's challenge and get the best of what's out there and not be afraid of change. So thanks very much. And I'm around for the whole day. I'm happy to chat around the margins and over cups of coffee. Thanks, Em.
Thank you very much. Wow. I have very good speakers today. We're actually running ahead of schedule. That's probably a first. Right, so now to finish our keynote session, I would like to invite Calvin Davis, man with two hats, to talk about money and opportunities and more interesting stuff.
I don't actually have any hats, no, good morning, good morning all. Yes, the reason though this says I have two hats is that maybe, well, some of you might be familiar with standing in front of you with Innovate UK Purple on the screen. And there is still the purple in my portfolio, but I've taken this secondment to the Global Centre of Rail Excellence. And I'm assuming that most in the room are familiar with what this is. But what I'll do is give you an update on the progress with GCRE, put it in a digital context, and then, as Milda says, hope it's useful. I'll remind you or tell you about a current funding opportunity which you can dip into in a couple of weeks. You have to be very quick and see if you can't apply for something to do on this, what I think is this really interesting test site in South Wales. So GCRE, the concept basically lies in the fact that we spend a lot more on railway infrastructure than we do on railway systems for rolling stock and passengers. So the ratio is about 10:1, and there's some indicative budgets up there. But historically, certainly in Innovate UK, we spend a lot of time thinking about passenger and the rolling stock, and that's good because it affects the customer experience. But the big capital outlay as a nation goes on the infrastructure that lies behind that customer experience. So the concept behind GCRE is to provide a missing piece of the R&D jigsaw, which is a test bed for testing things directly related to the infrastructure. And the one thing that made this possible was the availability of a unique national site in South Wales. What you need to build a new railway system, if you want it to be circular, is a big site with very little on it. And South Wales, finally, but also positively for the railway industry, has a number of those in the form of old and now expired coal mines. So what GCRE is a life expired open cast coal mine. It's a big site. We've heard the scale of things mentioned several times this morning. I think the land area at GCRE is actually bigger than HS2. HS2 is long and thin, but actually if you add it all up, GCRE is a slightly bigger site. And it's currently being decommissioned as a coal mine, and the site has now been handed over to GCRE to turn into a railway district. And there it is. And the plan is to build two loops on it. And many of you will have perhaps seen the team talking about this. The plan is to have an outer loop, which is slightly higher speed, where rolling stock can be tested, either for R&D purposes or for commissioning into service. An inner loop, which you can see there to a small extent in cuttings, which is the infrastructure test loop. And on that loop, the plan is to run a heavily loaded freight train continuously 24/7 to test the substrate of that railway, test the infrastructure, which is supporting the movements of that train. And what it will offer then is three services. So there is the testing of rolling stock, the testing of infrastructure, and storage. So storage is more quickly delivered, so that will bring in some actually revenue very quickly. And the two bigger loops will come into operation on a slightly slower scale. And if the plan is to make it a one-stop shop, we haven't got anything like this in the UK yet. We have the Riddicks, which Network Rail operates, and they are very useful for a number of projects, but for some reasons they're quite difficult to access. Actually, partly because they're so popular and they're oversubscribed with rolling stuff. And in the digital space, the plan, of course, is that this will be fully digital. There will be a digital twin to help to build the site and to operate the site. Where is it? It's in South Wales. It's just south of the Brecon Beacons, which is a bit of the country that I know and love. So it's right on the fringes of the national park at the head of the Meath and Swansea Valley. Reasonably well connected from the M4. Probably about 2 hours drive from here, perhaps 2.5. And that's the overview of the site. So you can see the projection of what the loops will look like. And I wanted to give some indication of the scale. That's a view from Google Earth of what the site looks like. And what I've tried to do is to superimpose some actual site photographs. So that is the site of the current open cast coal mine, which effectively, go back this slide, the open cast coal mine is top left of that slide, and has essentially migrated across that hillside over decades. So the mining started on the right-hand side, removed the surface material, built an artificial hill, and that artificial hill has essentially migrated from left to right in that photograph. So the open cast soar, if you like, is currently on the top left of the photograph. And that's a view into it. You don't really get scale from photographs, do you? There is some plant in there which you can't see, and it's not ordinary plant, it's mining scale plant. So it's plant machinery which is roughly the size of a small house. And that is almost indistinguishable in the bottom left-hand side of that photograph. In terms of the historical aspects, this is looking to the south east of the site, where there are some historic landmarks, some old tramways, which is to support the mining industry. And then in the most picturesque direction, this is looking up towards the northeast, and the red beacons just in that direction. And this is indicative of the land movements which have taken place. And what you can begin to see here is the formation of the track bed. So between the blue posts, the engineers are currently moving the mining spoil to leave a level area, which will ultimately, in 2 years' time, become the track bed of the outer loop. But it is big, and the fullness of time, I think, would be really good if we could get a real event up there. It's a little bit challenging at the moment because it's currently an off-road driving exercise in Land Rovers, so we can't take big quantities, but next year perhaps. So that's the timescales. Land is being transformed now in preparation for building the railway, all the way through till 2025, when the plan is to get the 2 loops up and running and ready for business. But so there's a summary slide. But there is some business to be done here and now, because through BEIS, Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, there is some funding available to innovate and to do R&D in the development of the new railway. So many of you may be familiar with this funding opportunity. It's been open for a couple of weeks and it closes in a week's time. I'll take you through that and put it into a digital context. There are 9 themes. So the concept here is that if we're going to build this railway, let's build in some innovative concepts and prove those concepts as part of the build, and then go on to demonstrate their robustness and their resilience as part of the operational railway once it's up and running. Why wouldn't we do this? It's a perfect opportunity. And the 9 themes are track work, OLE, earthworks, power supply, telecommunications, security, monitoring and maintenance, railway operations, and ecology and habitat creation. So where's the digital? Well, I just went through the list for myself. So this is Kelvin's personal review of what the digital relevance of these challenges is. Please look at the full list for yourself and decide if there's anything in there for you. But in terms of security, we're looking for non-physical barriers to protect the site. The kilometres of fencing that will be required would consume a large amount of budget. So we would be receptive to any teams who have any concepts to build something that isn't a physical barrier. So that could be something in digital space. Monitoring the maintenance and a digital twin. A digital twin is going to be fundamental to the build and the operation of the railway. So exactly as we've heard from other speakers, it's really important that we have this specialism in the digital twin space. Railway operation and automated systems. Again, the signaling system is not necessarily defined yet, but there are a number of innovations that can be offered in that space. So please have a look at the competition scope and see what you think might be relevant from your businesses. And I'm sure many of you have already spotted this and are busy writing new bits. And where did the scope come from? I'll just quickly touch on that. It's although UKRRIN is a small and perfectly formed entity in South Wales, the competition scope was devised not only with reference to GCRE, it includes input from from Network Rail, from HS2 and from HS1. So if you like, all of the scope themes have been ratified by the wider railway industry and also being of interest to them. There's no point in doing something for yourselves, only selling it to GCRE. The plan is to develop something, demonstrate and prove it on the GCRE site, and then your planning plan is to sell that to the wider railway industry in the UK and of course abroad. Those are the dates of the competition. I've switched to the UK purple now. Nobody noticed. But the competition opened on the 21st of October and it closes in a week's time. So today is pretty much the last day that I would insult you by standing up and saying there's a funding opportunity, but there is a week. And if you want to put it in context, the role I currently have in Innovate UK, I applied for that with 2 hours notice. So it's not a funding application, obviously, but the pressure of having a small window to apply doesn't necessarily detract from the quality of the application. And the successful applicants would be notified in January. And about the two QR codes, I have no idea why Google Chrome puts a small and friendly dinosaur in the middle of QR codes if you generate from that, but it does. And those are the QR codes, the competition documents, and for the competition briefing event, which is a 2 or 3 hour video of useful information from the GCRE. There we go. Thanks, Milda.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to all our speakers and our amazing audience. You have survived this session. Thank you to our online audience. I've kept track on the participation. We had 44 people watching all these proceedings, so it's great to know that. So with this presentation, we'll finish the keynote session and I will stop the meeting in a minute. If you're online, you're free to go now because the next information here will not be relevant for you. Although, 1 second, I will share the recording with everyone next week. So we'll download it, we'll get a sort of an email, all of you who are attending and to our innovation community. Right. So next we will have a bit of a lunch break. We'll have that will take place over through that corridor in the networking area, and we'll stay there for a while. So we'll have a bit of a networking lunch, and then we'll start our exhibitor spotlights. We have 10 of those, and we'll start with Unified Rail, and kind of we'll go one next to another. So each exhibitor will have 10 minutes to talk about their product at their stand. And I will be shouting at all of you when there will be time to move on. After that, we will start lab tours at around 2:15. So each of you have a colored sticker. It indicates a group. We try to split into groups of 20 or so. And every 15 minutes, we'll release the new group into the lab tour. So we'll have this kind of loop of tours going through. So again, please make sure know your color sticker. If you don't have a sticker and you want to join a lab tour, you can do that at the end. We'll do some sort of improvised lab tour at the end without the stickers as well. So I hope you enjoyed this part of the event, and I'll see you at the networking lunch. Thank you.